welcome to the Warhammer Podcast, episode 167. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
And today, we're doing a soulless tier list. Actually, it's got a lot of soul. They're all in gems.
Yeah, very soulful tier list.
We're doing the many sus weapons of Aeldari. We're looking at what clearly is the Bad Dragon store page. This is probably not a monetizable video, so if you're a fan of our videos, please consider Patreon.
Yeah, Aeldari ranged weapons, their designs are, they're something.
There's so many back massagers here. All right, before we get off topic talking about things that will only make this worse for us on YouTube, let's get into this.
Sounds good.
Hang on just a second. Brad from the future here. Through Tzeentchian magic, I'm showing up because if you're a fan of us, you may be wondering what my thoughts on the Thousand Sons Codex are. And I can tell you them. On Wednesday the 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Slam Sector, the YouTube channel will be live streaming with me as a guest. We're going to go through the Thousand Sons Codex and review it. But I have to get back to playing with it, and I'll talk to you all then. In my future. Time is weird. All right, where do we want to start off? Should we do the Shuriken weapons first, since that's like one of the major types of Aeldari weapons?
Yeah, I think that's a great starting point. Just a quick reminder, we're going to be focusing on Aeldari ranged weapons, and that's like all of it, tank included and all that stuff, and Craftworld, Harlequin, Drukhari, all in one, because like they're all basically Aeldari stuff. It's all the same, more or less.
We're doing the Aeldari ranges, all of them at once.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, starting with the Shuriken.
Why did you say Shuriken weird?
I don't know, dude. Probably some repressed memory from Naruto.
Did they say it weird? Should we say Naruto weird and say Naruto?
I missed out on that one. I should have said that. So Shuriken weapons are like one of the more interesting, I guess, styles of Aeldari weapons. Even though like when they fundamentally break it down, it's basically just a really, really fancy railgun.
Yeah, that's like the easiest way to describe it. Basically, they shove a crystal in the ammo compartment and then slice off a monomolecular thick piece of it. That gets sliced off and then fired through essentially a gravity field railgun out the front. And that's how you get a Shuriken Catapult. They tend to be disc shaped, so they look like shurikens when they fly through the air.
Yeah, so like it's, normal railgun shooting like shell thing, but instead of that, think more like batarangs instead of just piece of metal.
Impossibly thin batarangs.
Yeah, so pretty cool in like style. The idea is such a unique take on just railgun.
I do think that Aeldari in general, having had to brush up on all the lore of these just now, have a lot of very fun, very 40k sci-fi guns. Just the stupidest stuff we're going to cover here. I
think a decent amount of it comes from just like old lore when they were truly in the 1980s heavy metal band era.
The unironic OCs, yeah. There's some of those guns in here.
Which is cool. But all right, so are we going to start with the Shuriken Cannon?
Let's do the catapult, the basic one. Shuriken Catapult, the bolt gun equivalent. I think it ranks higher than the bolt gun in my head because it's such a fun sci-fi idea.
We put bolt gun at B for bolt gun, right?
We did, I think. I may have gone lower. I don't remember.
That sounds like something we would have done.
This is like a solid A tier weapon. Also, we're just doing S through D. We're not doing clever tiers this time. We're just ranking them like a basic tier list. I've had a really, really long week, guys.
Well, and I think it's one of those, the things we would come up for tiers on this one would certainly demonetize us.
What, you don't want the Disgaea reference S tier?
But yeah, I agree. It's probably A tier, just cool aesthetic nature, especially like if it was just shooting out cylinders of metal, I'd be like, sure. But like it could shoot out batarangs. You could totally make that happen. And that's badass.
You should just have to change the shape of the crystal you throw in it.
Right, which, yeah, A tier. Very cool.
So there's the Shuriken Pistol and the Shuriken Cannon.
Yes.
The Shuriken Pistol, another aspect of this, since looking at the pistol has reminded me. On the one we're looking at, there is no trigger mechanism. From reading up on this, Shuriken weapons do not have physical triggers. They are fired through psychically giving them a fire command, because all Aeldari are psychic innately. It's a neat feature that feels feels a little world buildy for Eldar. Like, I enjoy little things like that to make something feel a little more alien.
That actually makes a lot of sense and is pretty cool. Why have the deviations that are implemented by, physically pushing a trigger when you don't have to? Just have better aim because you don't have to have that physical action. Very cool. But yeah, the pistol itself, it's not as cool.
The pistols never are. It's so rare for a pistol to be as cool as a full-size gun. I don't think it's all the way down at C tier though, is it?
It's close. It's like at the top of C or low B, and I'm okay with low B.
All right, we'll make it gatekeep B. And then the cannon
Cannon's cool.
is the oversized version. I don't think it's any better than the Shuriken Catapult though.
No.
I think it's just an A with it.
It's cool in a slightly different way. It's bigger, and that's got an aesthetic of its own. But yeah, I don't think it's particularly better. It's just bigger.
Does bigger even make sense with this type of gun? I guess the rail, in air quotes, portion of it could be larger so that you have more gravity to throw it with.
Yeah, easier to aim long distances.
I guess. Maybe you could get a slightly wider disc, but they don't seem to take advantage of that.
Yeah, not particularly wow factor, but still I think up in the A tier, just because fundamentally cool.
I am fine with that. Let's do the Brightlance, a gun I used to think was cooler. This is a don't meet your heroes moment here.
Okay, because it sounds cool, right? Brightlance, and it's a big cannon-y type thing.
And as a Drukhari player, I know what a Dark Lance is, and I thought a Brightlance was just a less edgy version, but it's not.
No. Drukhari have their own thing going on with their dark light, dark matter thing.
Yeah. We'll get to the fun later, but I gotta say, I'm really disappointed reading up on the Brightlance and finding out it is literally just a las cannon, but Eldar made it.
Yeah.
That's the lore. It's the Eldar version of a las cannon, and thus it is better because an Eldar made it, which is the most elf thing, which I hate.
No, that one, honestly, it kind of makes sense that las weapons that Eldar make are better. The Imperium are trying to make the dollar store ripoffs of Eldar las weapons, and they perfected that dollar store ripoff. But the Brightlance, I still it's not amazing.
I don't want to put it above C.
It's a C.
It's so disappointing. It's just a las cannon. It's a laser gun.
Yeah, I think some of the smaller laser guns are kind of cooler for Eldar than just the big cannon version.
We'll get to them, but I just had to get this disappointment out of the way. As a Drukhari player, level up your game, Eldar players. Get cooler stuff. You do have cooler stuff, but it's not your Brightlance. So what Eldar have a lot of is aspect warriors, and all of them have their own unique shtick.
I don't think we put literally every this weapon, but slightly fancier.
No, but when picking the weapons to put on the list, we tended to side with the ones from the specific aspect instead of a generic. But I really want to talk about a gun that is called a Dragon Fusion Gun.
Yes.
Which sounds like something a 12-year-old would shout while slamming a card down on a Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle board thing on their arm. Honestly, it's just a melta weapon. That's all they are. They're melta weapons. But I'm giving this an S tier simply because it's called a Dragon Fusion Gun.
It's such a, again, harkens back to the 80s metal band shtick.
The most 12-year-old wrote this.
Yeah.
Scribbled in crayon over a drawing he doodled instead of his geometry class.
And Meltas are already they're solid.
Yeah, I like Meltas in general. I'm not a big fan of Meltas as pistols. It's just dumb to me. However, there is the Dragon Fusion Pistol, and it's called a Dragon Fusion Pistol, so it's A tier.
Yeah, only slightly more disappointing when you went fancy pistol instead of just gun.
I think I gave the Melta pistol D tier when we were in Imperium because it's stupid.
It is dumb.
But this is called a Dragon Fusion Pistol, so it's very cool.
Yeah. So I hadn't really noticed, and I wasn't paying attention to triggers and finger guards until you brought it up with the Shuriken weapons. These ones definitely have it.
Yes, there are some weapons that have triggers in the Eldar range. A lot of them have finger guards just to hold something, but don't have an actual trigger in it if you look.
I guess that kind of makes sense, but it really looks like the Dragon Fusion Gun has a trigger, which is just like that extra little bit of nonsense going on, sure.
Yeah, there's a weird amount of them either forgetting at certain points while designing these, or just thinking a trigger would look cooler on that gun model and drawing one in anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's 40K. I'm not expecting something to make sense the whole way through a range.
Right.
But like, if you're just making a plasma gun that heats up promethium instead of heating up a normal gas into a plasma or whatever,
Just like hydrogen.
it's a little silly, and I like plasma more than Melta usually.
The whole like lore around Melta, I guess also fusion, it's a lot of nobody really understands what's going on. We're just hand waving it.
Is it supposed to fire as a wave? Is it supposed to fire as a fluid? Is it supposed to fire as a flash of light? It depends entirely on the book.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I give it a little bit more of a pass for Eldar alien tech.
Yes, then the Imperium's tech, which you should be able to fully understand because it's the human tech. It should be the familiar in the setting.
Yeah.
So it gets more of a pass in Eldar. That said, it is a little weird that, like, there's not as much lore for Xenos.
True.
But the fact that they also had the stupid idea to make a plasma gun, but you change out what you plasmify and it works, and I guess they're using some equivalent of promethium, but it's not really stated anywhere what it is. Unless it's in a book that I've never read and no one has on the internet when I looked it up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's whatever. But I guess sticking to the dragon motif, you want to talk about the dragon's breath flamer?
Yes. Never more in my life have I wanted to talk about something. Bro, it's like when the cringe guys want dragon breath rounds for a shotgun because it says dragon breath and it lights things on fire when you could have just shot it with a shotgun.
I mean, when you shoot a target, it looks funnier. Like, it's got the fireworks aspect. Ooh, pretty lights.
Bro, you're 3,000 years old. Why did you call it a dragon's breath flamethrower? That's so cringe.
Yeah, that is a whole other thing. And you're not going to believe what it does.
You're never gonna guess. It's a flamethrower. Yeah, so the Dragon Breath Flamer is going in S tier, right next to the Dragon Fusion Gun. To be honest, I didn't realize how much I loved the Fire Dragons until we did this episode. I am now standing Fire Dragons. They're just so goddamn cringe and I love them.
They stand behind it so well. Just like embrace the cringe.
And then, if you want to melt a weapon, but you need to compensate for something, I've got a, what is this, 10-foot tall compensator for you. You can get a fire pike, which you might think that sounds like a melee weapon. And then you look at the size of it and you go, oh, is it like a spear with like a melta tip? Like when you've got a melta grenade spear?
Or like a pike.
No, it's a sniper rifle, but for melta.
Yeah.
Explain that one, science.
Well, you see, if the barrel is like 10 feet long, that means you can shoot 10 feet further.
That's literally not how that works.
I don't know, man. Seems like it should.
I do like this, but it isn't. It's more stupid and it doesn't have the fun name to like send me through the stratosphere. So I do think the fire pike's only A tier.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
But this is the weapon I like the looks of the most in the fire dragon part of the range. And boy, oh boy, do they have a lot of weapons. Like we've got 4 different variations here on a single unit that gets to use these things. There's fusion pistols throughout the army, but they're not called a dragon fusion pistol, so I won't hear about them.
I like the fire pike at A. It's a solidly deserved A, not just, oh, funny name.
Yeah, the S's so far have not been the highest quality S's of my life, but I don't care.
It's fine.
So what do we want next?
How about we go from a pike to a lance? Let's talk about the laser lance.
We already talked about the Brightlance though, Eric.
No, the laser lance.
I actually like laser lances after reading them. It's a kind of neat little sci-fi gimmick. So this does look like a melee weapon, and it is one in addition, but it is a fun little fusion of it's a ranged ranged weapon and a melee weapon rolled into one. The spear that all of the Eldar bikers have, some of them get fancier names, but it's just generally they're laser lances. It's essentially a laser rifle, like just your classic las rifle, except it is used specifically to like create a Lasblast at the tip of the lance when you charge, in addition to being something you can fire.
Right. It's actually a gun, but that's like the secondary. It's supposed to be like an actual lance, except instead of just poking them with a sharp stick, you made sure that they really died by shooting a laser at them point blank.
Yeah, so I kind of really like this design. I also found through this episode that I like a lot of Eldar gun designs from a lore standpoint. They're all just dicks.
It's an alternate use case. Some of them are melee and range, but there's also another use case that's less talked about.
Do some of them extend and retract back and forth in case they need to, like, is that how they're reloading?
Oh, there's an entire sonic vibration section.
No. Don't spoil it yet, Eric. We're not to the greatest thing we're going to talk about today.
But Laser Lance, I think probably an A.
I think so, and I think it looks top-loaded right now at the tier list, but I guarantee you there's just a lot of really fun weapons in the Eldar range.
Yeah.
Like, my respect for Eldar has doubled today.
From 1 to 2.
I like Drukhari at least, and Harlequins. So like from 2 to 4.
I do think a lot of these weapons are pretty cool. So yeah, definitely going to be a bit top heavy, especially when we're doing fun nonsense like our current S tier.
All right, so the laser lance is out of the way. Should we do some of these other laser weapons that are not going to get high tiers?
Yeah, we've been top loading this a bit. Let's just talk about the Lasblaster.
Yeah, so the Lasblaster is just a las gun. That's D tier.
That is D tier.
That's literally the worst.
It's such a disappointment compared to everything else that Aeldari's got going on.
You've got aliens who should have cool different tech, and it's literally a las rifle.
Yeah.
I have to dock so many points for that. And it's on one of your like staple aspect warrior type units. I am very disappointed, Swooping Hawks.
Yeah, it's fine if it wasn't Aeldari. Like, I expect better, cooler. But I guess also in the same vein, we've got the long rifle.
Yeah, the long rifle, I always like the idea of a las sniper rifle because the one thing a laser should be good at is going in a straight line, but it's also quite boring. So I don't think it can get above like C tier.
Yeah, it's probably C tier. It does have a little bit of like fun to it, but again, it's got the same thing of I expect more interesting esoteric type stuff going on other than just fired a beam of light.
Speaking of, we've got another D tier in the scatter laser, which you're not going to believe this one, guys. It's a bunch of las rifles tied together and fired like a shotgun from a tank.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
No, it's dumb.
You're trying to scatter lasers, something that you use specifically because you can make them accurate.
Yeah, and like the more focused it is, the better. That's like one of the things about focusing beams. But yeah, no, scatter lasers just awful.
Should we talk about monofilament wires? Because there's quite a few weapons that use this, and I kind of love them all.
All right, let's start with like the Deathspinner, but kind of talk about the whole monofilament style of weaponry that we're going to be bringing up here.
Okay, have you read Eric's favorite chapter in the 3-body problem?
Yeah.
Is that too deep of a cut?
Is that where we're going with this?
It's his favorite part of that book.
Okay, so monofilament guns, weapons, whatever, are basically like trying to fire a net of monofilament fibers at something and have them be like, they're so sharp, they just slice right through.
Yeah, so you basically, with a Deathspinner, are firing basically a wad of string, right? Except this string is supposed to be like only a molecule thick, so it can pass through their armor and through them and everything. And you fire it like basically as a cloud that turns whatever you're throwing it at into goo once it passes through them.
Yeah, and I think the different sizes depend on like if it's going to be more net or more cloud.
Yeah. So the general description that I've read is that it fires essentially a cloud of it.
Yeah.
That's how you can visualize the monofilament firing at you.
Yeah, it's kind of neat how it uses like some type of like compressed liquid filament that's like shot out through like super fine sieve type holes, and then like some type of gravity clamp or something like that spins and makes it into this cloud weave thing.
Yeah, and then you throw it at somebody.
Yeah.
I do like it though because it truly feels different in the same way I really like Shuriken stuff. And yeah, we're dealing with, again, a monomolecular thick. They've done the shtick, but it's two different ways to show off that this technology is something that they've utilized different ways in different types of guns.
So the Deathspinner, I think it looks cool.
So to me, this is like the really basic version. I like it. It's probably A tier.
Yeah, I think it's probably A tier. It's gonna be tough to have any of these be like true failures just because it's such a unique take on how it's all working.
There's one true failure. We'll talk about it in a moment.
I'm not sure I totally agree with you, but let's move on to the next one.
The next one is my absolute favorite of the bunch. It is the Doomweaver / Shadow Weaver, the big cannon version of a Deathspinner, right? Works the exact same way, fires it out, makes a cloud, and then shoots it. But the way it's shot is it's fired like a mortar, and it descends like a fog cloud of slice you to bits ribbon.
Yeah.
And it just descends over an area of the battlefield, and everybody under it
Goops.
gets mooshed.
That is a bit intense.
And it's like such a great, horrifying concept.
Yeah. Like, it's one thing to have, like, oh, that gun mulches you up or whatever. And it's like, well, sure, a lot of guns can just kill you. But, like, having that cloud fall as a mortar, that's got a certain amount of horror element to it.
Seeing I'm not making it out of this one.
Yeah.
There's no surprise or anything. You're filled with that dread as it happens. And I just think it's a really fun, different way to do a mortar type gun. I think it's S tier through and through.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It is honestly an amazingly cool design. However, on the other end of things, we have the boringest version.
Yeah.
The Spinneret Rifle. It's just firing a monofilament thread forward straight, just as a line, and then spins it so that it corkscrews. That's all it does. And I'm like, why not just use a Shuriken gun at that point?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is quite a bit less exciting of just like shoot this one, turn it into more of like a laser rifle. As opposed to this like really cool monofilament netting type thing going on.
Yeah, I don't think it goes below B, but it's only a B in what I think is the coolest of the different types of guns that, as Urani portion, have access to.
All right, but like it can get worse.
Okay, so we're gonna go out of order here. We were gonna save Drukhari for later, but I get what you want to talk about. The true disappointment.
This is more of a Drukhari style, right? The monofilament turn cloud thing feels more Drukhari in a weird way to me.
A little. When we get to other Drukhari weapons, I actually think it doesn't make as much sense. But the point is, if I tell you a gun is called a shredder,
Yes.
how do you assume that gun works?
Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy.
Sure, that's still closer than how this thing works. So the very dumb lore I just read up on, because I've never actually seen a shredder in a book. A shredder works like a Deathspinner, except the monofilament wire, which we've discussed, is a single molecule thick that is supposed to cut through stuff, is covered in barbs of monofilament of some variety that is supposed to wrap around the target to cause an agonizing death as they struggle.
So I can only assume that on this one, it's not actually like monomolecular, it's just monofilament. So it's like one continuous plastic fiber or something like that. But like even then, like spikes in it.
That's such a stretch.
It's just weird. But I guess like, okay, Drukhari takes this idea and is like, how do we make it slightly less lethal and more painful?
Yeah, but it's like, why not just throw some insulation at them?
I mean, that's pretty terrifying.
It is. We've basically turned it into a fiberglass gun.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
It is terrifying as an unarmored person, but like...
Yeah, against anything that's not immediately breathing it in. Not the most exciting of guns.
I don't know. I feel it's kind of dumb when you read it's supposed to wrap them up.
It seems it could be a cool style of gun if it wasn't trying to add this whole monofilament. Just fire a net gun.
Yeah.
That just does the job better. So I don't know, man. Where do you want to put this one?
I would put it down in D for disappointing.
That's fine.
As a Drukhari player, we have so much better coming.
All right, since we're in Drukhari, do we want to talk about one of their like dark light things?
Let's save it for for a little bit. I do want to talk about Drukhari more, but if you do want to get something out of the way, we can just put the Heat Lance in like B tier. This is the Drukhari Melta, and it doesn't have a sweet name.
Yeah, I had seen some talk about it being like slightly fancier, but like I feel like everything that we say is like it's this Imperium version with a caveat of it's slightly fancier.
Right.
In some way, whatever that particular way is.
But to get back to our high elves in space, I do want to give them credit for one of my favorite custom OC ass guns I have ever seen in any setting. It is the most 40k of things, the Prism Cannon.
Oh, yeah. This one's a neat one.
It's just so dumb, and I love it so much for it. It is I am the absolute coolest guy. So the Prism Cannon is basically charging up a laser through complex series of crystals that makes it very strong. Ta-da. And it's just so accurate.
It's a laser weapon, but tank scale and like better.
Yeah, which sounds boring, right? I just punished the Brightlance.
And if that was all it had, it would also be getting punished.
Yes, but they could not resist high elfing the shit out of this thing. The Aeldari making this just are so crazy good, and it's so crazy accurate that you can fire it with such precise accuracy that you can fire it at another Prism Cannon's front crystal and use it to do trick shots. So instead of firing your gun at your target, you fire it at your ally who is aiming at the target, and then they hit it.
Hell yeah, dude. That's so cool. In such a like, you know, those like old games, the flash games that had you like bounce lasers around to like solve a puzzle. Let's do that in a battle. Brilliant.
I love the stupidity of certain 40k things. Like, unironically, it's like half of why orcs are amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is the orkiest idea done by Aeldari.
Yeah. I mean, sure, like there's probably some aspect to it that like also like, oh, it makes it more powerful because we're like combining streams.
Don't cross the streams. Why is it all turning up dicks today?
Yeah. I was putting that thought together in my head and I was like, oh God. There was that pause of like, do I just stop talking? But like, yeah, the whole idea of the prism cannons being able to shoot other prism cannons to do stuff, that's wicked cool.
It's the dumbest thing, but like in the best way to be dumb. It is S tier through and through. This is the Warhammer 40,000. I absolutely love the stupidity of the Prism Cannon.
All right, continuing on with like the most Warhammer 40k stuff. Do you want to talk about the D-Scythe and distortion weapons?
Yes. So all of the, I think you would call them vortex guns or whatever, but the D's nuts weapons, because we have to do this joke. But the D-Scythe is like the basic version of it. It is, the full name is the Distortion Scythe, but it's called a D-Scythe. It's a gun that wraiths use that pulls out your soul from your body and throws your soul into the warp. There is no physical damage caused by this gun. You just keel over and die of no apparent means.
Yeah, which is wild. And like all of the vortex guns are basically like turning warp rifts into weaponry in some way. Some of them are like more, oh, we're just opening up warp rifts and they'll get fucked up.
Yeah, some of them are less subtle.
Yeah, and other ones are like this, which is like targeting souls.
Yeah, and it's such a crazy cool, definitely the best version of this. And again, it feels so unique to Aeldari of like, they use the warp as a weapon because to them, they use the webway, not the warp for actual moving around and stuff. They see the warp as like an offensive tool, a war tool.
You're not worried about throwing trash on your highway.
Exactly. So like to them, they're like, that's the point of it. This is the war in heaven, baby.
Yeah. All the vortex weapons have that orky feel of like just doing ridiculous shit and then flavoring it in a way that's more finesse and exciting from the elf aspect. And I think the D-Scythe does a great job of that.
Yeah, so D-Scythe is S tier to me. The Wraith Cannon loses some subtlety, sadly. This is the bigger version. Instead of just throwing your soul into the warp, it throws you into the warp. And like half the time you just get crushed by the gravitational pull of it actually causing the hole in the first place. At that point, you lose some of the cool factor and it's just a gun.
Yeah, I think it is still really cool just by using that way of killing stuff of like you're just popping warp holes around, especially because like even the Aeldari don't have perfect control over these all the ways. So I don't know. I think it's still A tier.
All right. I do think the better version of that though is the even less subtle. So the Wraith Cannon throws you into the warp.
The D cannon.
The D cannon throws you, your buddy, that guy over there, and anything in between into the warp.
Couple buildings, it's all good.
So the D cannon is the least subtle of all. That one actually is better in my opinion, because if you're going to lose some subtlety, we should lose all subtlety.
Yeah, I think I remember reading something about that one, doing it at such a scale that like not only do you get tossed into the warp, you get tossed into it in like such small fine particle type stuff that you just basically become warp goo.
You become Sea of Soul.
Yeah, essentially. And I'm not sure, that might just be like some random passage somewhere or fanfic or whatever, but like it makes sense to me of such a big cannon doing this stuff.
I think this can stay A tier, but to me it's even better than the Wraith Cannon variant.
It is one of those, size is better. The subtlety is not needed from the Wraith Cannon.
Even though I think the Wraith Cannon is physically the largest one in play, but like lore-wise, D cannons do more. But enough of those, let's get into your mom's closet.
Oh yeah?
We need her back massager. Losing all subtlety, we have the Vibro Cannon, the most dildo of all guns here. This is a straight up vibrator. This is being sold on Lover's Lane right now.
It's got a good name for it, Vibro Cannon. You know what's going on there. It's not for level 1. But yeah, so Vibro Cannon is like one of the sonic weapons that they've got. And I mean, it's like just how sonic weapons work, or basically like use harmonics, resonance, whatever, to vibrate something so much that it just falls apart.
Yeah, it's like when you put it on high.
Yeah, you just lose yourself.
Yeah. So it's S tier, right?
It's S tier.
Okay, good. We got demonetized for it, so it better be. All right, on to the next very normal looking gun.
The Star Cannon.
Yeah, so the Star Cannon,
It's a plasma gun.
but it's a boring plasma gun. It's a plasma gun that's just, it's so cool it doesn't overheat at all, which is fine, but like, it doesn't glow either, and glowing is what makes plasma extra cool.
Like, it kind of works for Aeldari of like their plasma but cooler thing is it doesn't blow up. But yeah, losing that aesthetic is kind of disappointing. As much as like plasma is just makes more sense and is cooler than Melta, the aesthetics are a large part as well.
Yeah, and this loses them. Although I will give it extra points for just randomly throwing the Eldar dildo on the end of what is otherwise a normal plasma gun.
That's the overheat suppressor.
Oh, is that the secret? The Imperium's like, we can't be seen with that. They're all gonna think I use that.
They're all
They already think we do stuff with wolves.
I mean, you do, but... So, Star Cannon...
I'm fine with it being like C tier.
C? Sure.
You can't disrespect plasma like that.
That's fair.
It D40Kifies plasma. At that point, you shouldn't have it.
It's too good. You've ruined the aesthetics of plasma. All right, fair enough.
All right, shall we talk about the most boring sounding weapon that the Eldar managed to make hilarious for us?
Oh, yeah, the Reaper launcher.
It's just a missile launcher. Okay, but what if the missile launcher looked like a giant dong?
I mean, most missiles have some type of similar profile, but yeah.
I actually have to say, a little bit of the aesthetics is ruined for me now that I learned how it actually functions. I thought the like RPG 7 head on this thing fired off. That's actually like a multi-barrel, and the divots in it is where the tiny micro missiles fire out of.
Oh.
And that's sad.
That is a lot more disappointing.
And it also makes me question what the point of the rest of the gun is if your ammo's all the way up there.
Yeah, that's kind of true. All right, I did not actually know that. I guess I just made an assumption of like, it's a rocket launcher. That's the thing that it shoots.
This is the only one that should look like it's got that front on it.
Yeah, right?
Because actual RPGs have that. Oh, that's not what it's for. Of course, 40K, of course. The one time you have the excuse, you don't take it. The dong is for aesthetic purposes only.
I think it's D.
for angering you that much.
It's just rocket launcher, Aeldari rocket launcher was never going to do well, right?
It was not, but I was like looking at it and I was like, I do love how stupid this is. And then I learned how it worked and I got sad.
Yeah.
I feel like I've probably ruined this fact for a lot of the audience who may even have used a Dark Reaper before, assuming it worked the other way.
It makes so much sense. All right, let's move to something a little bit more exciting, I think. I want to talk about the Neuro Disruptor.
Oh, the Be Dead gun?
The Harlequin's I'm cheating at the game of war gun.
First of all, the Neuro Disruptor is S tier.
Yes.
It's possibly one of the greatest guns of all time, because do you want to know what this gun does? It kills you. And I don't mean like it fires a bullet through you. It doesn't blow you up. It doesn't fire some fancy stuff. No, you point it at someone and they keel over dead. Their brain stops functioning. The Neuro Disruptor just makes your brain stop.
It's very literal. It disrupts your neuro.
It's a cheaty gun. It's the golden gun. Golden Eye. You're running around one-shotting everything.
It's so perfect for Harlequins to have this gun that just cheats. Such a fucking cheater McCheat face. It's perfect. I love the Neuro Disruptor.
It brings up so many questions.
Oh, I don't want answers to how any of it works or why everybody doesn't use it.
Neither do I. I'm perfectly happy with just the Harlequins just have this. That's just a thing they have.
Right. It's just perfection. S tier, top tier.
Custodian Guard has stood watch for 1,000 years. The epitome of every single bit of alchemy the Emperor could put together.
With just the perfection of equipment.
You point the funny gun at him and he falls down. It's so good. It's so Harlequins.
I do love that. So let's just keep going with Harlequins.
Yeah. We can go through. There's not much because honestly, Harlequins use a lot of everybody's stuff. Like the fusion guns we've already covered.
Let's talk about the Shrieker Cannon. This is like Death Jester's gun. This iconic gun.
It's a little bit like the Shredder. However, it's much more respectable. I will give it that. It is a Harlequin assassination device through and through. It's just a big Shuriken Cannon, right?
Yes.
That's all it is, a Shuriken Cannon. The difference is the Shuriken crystal that's being sliced up and thrown as a Shuriken is filled with a toxin that specifically causes your body, when it hits you, to undergo some rapid change that turns you into human confetti. You go pop. And everyone around you is like, that guy just went pop.
Well, yeah, because, like, I think the whole Shuriken Cannon type stuff was, like, they're not like bolters just making a shitload of noise and stuff like that. So, like, it's totally possible that just far away, the Death Jester just pops you with this, and then you explode, and people are like, the fuck just happened?
But even better, it's called a Shrieker Cannon because it purposely makes a lot of noise as it whizzes by.
Oh, even better.
It's like a party gun sniper rifle.
It's like the Nerf whistle footballs.
Yes, it's using a Nerf Whistler monomolecular blade filled with a toxin that turns you into firework of body parts.
And then, like, on top of that, look at it. All right, don't tell me that that's not S tier.
It's the Harlequins understand funny gun.
Yes, they do.
Unfortunately, as much as I love Haywire, and Harlequins and Drukhari both use Haywire a lot, it does not hold up to the other two Harlequin guns we just talked about. It's just your classic EMP gun.
Wait, what's an EMP?
It's an electromagnetic pulse. It wipes out all of the computers and circuits that it touches.
Oh, an EMP.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just say EMP?
I don't know.
Okay, so the Haywire Cannon is the EMP cannon.
Yeah.
Yeah, not quite as cool as the other ones, but like...
It's still very cool.
It is still pretty cool. And they've got the Neuro Disruptor to turn off biologicals. Then they've got the Haywire Cannon to turn off non-biologicals. But yeah, it's not quite. I think it's probably A tier.
Yeah, I think that's a fair spot for it. I don't think I could argue it to S tier. I personally love them in game, but like lore-wise, it's an EMP.
Yeah, an EMP. So I think that leaves us mostly with just a few more on Drukhari that, oh boy, there's some weird shit here still.
It's amazing. Okay, let's cover Splinter Tech, because that is like the main Drukhari thing.
Yeah.
Splinter guns, at their core, imagine a Shuriken gun, just like we did with all the Shuriken weapons, the Shrieker Cannon, all that.
Yeah, it's like a railgun kind of thing.
Yes. However, to make it more Drukhari, remember the core thing of the Drukhari is they feed off of pain and suffering. Well, a Shuriken Cannon's not great at doing that. It seems like a pretty clean way to go, honestly. So, Splinter guns are all the same thing, but filled with a toxin specifically designed to maximize neuron damage and pain receptor firing and everything like that. It's basically you take a Shuriken gun and you go, what if I maximize how much pain and misery it causes as you die?
Right. Instead of making that clean cut with the actual Shuriken, let's like have it like splinter into this toxin that is extremely painful.
And as a reverse to what you would normally think I would say about things, I think the Splinter Rifle is a solid A tier weapon, right? Like, it's fine. It's just like the Shuriken Cannon. It makes sense for Drukhari. It's great.
It does. Very solid. Nothing like, holy shit, that's the coolest thing ever, but also like, that's cool.
The Splinter Cannon, I think, is only B tier because it makes less sense for the bigger thing to try to cause physical pain to something. I guess monsters and stuff exist, so sure. We'll argue there's reason for the Splinter Cannon still.
Yeah, but like, a lot of those monsters are probably like unfeeling pain. Like, yeah, it's just a common thing for monster stuff, so yeah, I'm with you. It's not as cool.
And as a rare thing for me, I think the Splinter Pistol is the best of the bunch. Because if you're going to have a weapon that is about maximizing the pain of someone dying, you probably want to be close. It's probably to like feed off of.
Well, yeah, to actually like do the whole Drukhari thing of like gaining energy from the pain. You don't want it to be like, oh, way the fuck over there, somebody's feeling pain. Cool. How's that going?
Which I do know feeds Drukhari. The gladiatorial stuff works for their audience, but the up close is probably like, you can just imagine the Archon just using this to execute someone and just being like living in it.
Yeah. And I imagine that you can like customize the neurotoxin so it's like, oh, this one will give more of a chance that we can capture kind of thing.
Yeah, there's shockingly few paralytics or anything in the Drukhari range here, given how much of their stuff is capturing based. You could argue the Splinter weapons probably have the ability to be loaded up with a toxin that is a paralytic instead. But everything about Drukhari is capturing stuff, but all of their weaponry
Is brutal.
is a blow 'em the fuck up button.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain aspect of like, use the weapons to remove any resistance.
Anyone who could fight and then take the ones who can't.
Yeah. And then we'll just get an actual net.
We'll get a normal net. We do have nets and stuff on our vehicles, so yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to get fancy with it, man. Job's already done. It's just custodial work at that point.
Just put the school kids in the bag and throw them in the bag.
I'm gonna need more rope. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good setup for the Splinter weaponry. So, let's talk about the Dark Lance, because not actually just a dark version of the Brightlance.
So, do you know what dark light is, Eric?
I mean, no, but I assume it's something like dark matter.
Don't worry, GW writers don't know either. The best explanation I've seen that keeps it vague enough that it makes some sense is that it's some type of like antimatter equivalent, but it's light, but it's harvestable, but it only comes from like warp storms in the warp.
Okay, some type of magic MacGuffin.
Magic MacGuffin, super dark matter.
Slightly more interesting than just normal light.
So a dark lance, a blaster, a blast pistol, all of these are dark light weapons.
Yeah.
And they all work the same way of a blast of super duper antimatter blows them up.
Yeah, which that's not the most exciting.
No, honestly, it's not the craziest thing. Out of all of them, I love the Dark Lance. Listening to people complain all day about getting hit by Dark Lances in 40K keeps me alive. So I think the Dark Lance is still A tier, but the other two, the Blaster, which is just a lesser Dark Lance, and the Blast Pistol, which is a pistol and I hate it. The Blaster is like at best C tier.
It's probably C tier, but the pistol's D.
The pistol goes in D tier. I want an antimatter bomb gun. I want it to be short range. so that I can feel it on my skin when I get hit by the back blast.
Yeah, a lot of those same problems of pistols at the same time of like, if you're gonna be that serious about it, like get a bigger gun, quit wimping out.
While we're down here in D tier, D for Disintegrator Cannon. Do you want to know what a Disintegrator Cannon is, Eric?
Some type of plasma.
It's literally plasma, but don't get hot, but edgelord.
So Star Cannon, but
edgelord.
with spikes.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
D tier. Okay, so the rest of Drukhari stuff here is aces. I promise you, we're ending on bangers the whole way through. So let's start with the Liquifier Gun, Eric.
Okay.
If I tell you I have a Liquifier Gun, what are you going to expect it to do?
I mean, I would expect it to liquefy things.
That is indeed what it does.
Some type of like plasma flamer thing.
Yes, it's a flamethrower, but instead of flames, we throw acid into it.
Brilliant.
Just melt people alive. It's like the Saturday morning cartoon villain version of a flamer, where like it could have just been a flamer, but we wanted to make it sound eviler.
Right, and not actually have to animate flames.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just the most Drukhari thing. I do think in the grand scheme of things, it's still only A tier, but it is A tier.
Yeah, okay.
Flamers are already cool, and anyone who played a game with or against 9th edition launched Drukhari can tell you that the coolest flamer is actually a liquifier.
Yeah, that's not actually true.
Very true. Eric remembers this crusade well.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on A tier, but...
Don't care flamer.
Alright, but like, let's talk about the bone gun.
The Ossefactor.
Sure, that sounds right. I don't know, it's the bone gun.
So, as the name implies, the Ossefactor is very literal, just like the liquifier. It's an Aeldari gun that when you get hit by it, starts mutating your body to produce a lot more bone very fast in not fun areas to maximize pain.
I mean, I feel like growing bone anywhere than replacing what you currently had and was somehow removed seems awful. You shouldn't have bone in places that wasn't already bone.
And you should also never Google this because it's a real life thing that you can accidentally produce bone in areas it's not supposed to be, and it's very bad and extremely painful. But yeah, the Drukhari turned that into a weapon. This to me is S tier because it's Drukhari, and it is the most Drukhari thing of like, what if instead of killing someone, we make it horrible?
Yeah, I'm just imagining this is like the TF2 Medic's heal gun, but instead of like healing, it's just growing bone. Right? Like, that's just this like beam of, I'm healing you, I'm helping.
When the bullets hitting them for negative damage makes it much worse.
Yes. Basically. I love this bone gun. It's unique, and that's cool. But what else do we have?
There's two left. One I want to end on because it's quite the bombshell. The other one, I'm only going to put it in B tier, and I'm going to tell you about it. It's the Hex Rifle.
Well, the Hex Rifle's cool.
I do like the Hex Rifle. It's very cool in game. It's just a good sniper rifle. The Hex Rifle, lore-wise, uses the most overused Drukhari anecdote. It is the story I've heard in multiple GW books, because I think every author who has to add Drukhari to their book has only read 3 pages of a codex once. So the Hex Rifle fires a round that is filled with the Glass Plague. The Glass Plague is a famous Drukhari anecdote. To tell you its story, a Drukhari homunculus shows up and shows off wonderful glass figures of people in agony, and everyone says they're so impossibly lifelike and amazing.
Right. The classic, like, Gorgon turned people into statues, and wow, they're so cool.
Yes, but like made of glass of people in horrible agony. And he got mentioned everywhere as like the big thing in town because, again, Drukhari's all like that vampiric, haughty aristocrat stuff, right? Where everyone's vying for social power in addition to power. So another homunculus coven gets jealous of him, goes over to his warehouse, busts the place up. Unfortunately, in doing so, they find that the reason that everything was so lifelike looking was he had invented a new plague called the Glass Plague. Well, later called it. This busted it open and freed it, and it started running rampant in Kamara. And now a bunch of Drukhari are getting turned to glass in a horrifying manner that's causing them a bunch of pain. And to make matters worse, Glass Plague truly kills you. There's no way to bring you back, because the Drukhari are essentially immortal physically because homunculi can give people new bodies.
Yeah, so long as there's like some bit of soul or whatever, they can basically repair anything.
The Glass Plague is a true death. So that was extremely bad. And then the Hex famously is the coven who solved the Glass Plague with the help of Fabius Bile. I think that's the case. It's vaguely mentioned in Fabius's book that he helped with it.
I mean, it seems like it's the kind of thing he'd do just as just passing by. And then once it was kind of solved, they're like, we're just going to turn it into a weapon.
Bingo. And that's why the Hex Rifle is named the Hex Rifle, because the Hex is the name of the coven who makes the Hex Rifle. It's a Glock.
That makes a lot more sense, because like I've seen Glass Plague, mentioned around, and I just assumed it was like a glass vial of some type of plague, because like, yeah, whatever, I don't know the backstory on it. A lot more specific than just like, here's a random plague that's in a vial. It's literally a plague that turns into glass. That's neat.
Yes, so it's a cool weapon, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, it's okay. It does nothing special to me. It is a cool sniper.
Yeah, it definitely is pretty neat. All right, we've got one last one, and this one's special.
It is the only bomber that I think is on our list this time, and I think Ork's got one. So this is called a Void Mine. It is what a Void Raven bomber uses. It is extremely sick. It's a dark light bomb, basically, but it fires in 2 stages. Stage 1, nothing happens, right? The first explosion happens, and what it really is a force field sphere gets created around an area, like a mountain or a battlefield.
Sure, some type of like, this is the area.
Yes. And then 2 is a particle of dark light is introduced into reality, and much like dark matter and matter meeting equals kaboomy, this does the same, and everything within the force field is gone. Not even reduced atoms, gone. No longer in existence. This is the actual delete button.
All right, that makes sense. Like void mine, as in it creates a void somewhere, not just this is a mine that we use in spaceships that are out in the void, so haha, it's a void mine. This is way cooler than that.
Yeah, and the given reason for like the force field is simply because without that, there's only one-way trips using this thing.
Right.
If you don't control the blast area to a city, then it's going to be a uselessly large area.
Some type of, let's not remove planets. There's useful things there.
Namely the people we want to get back into our ships.
Right. Yeah, dude, this one's cool.
I really like it, and there's a book that I won't spoil where there's a scene with it, and damn is it cool.
Yeah, I'm good with putting it S tier, just because like you make a weapon so powerful and scary that you have to have a first stage that limits it.
Yes, the limiter has to be placed on it because you want to be able to have return flights.
So, yeah, I mean, overall, Aeldari, they have cool weapons.
We didn't even go over all of them. We didn't even touch melee, which is basically a list about as long. Now, a lot of those are more boring because he's a really good sword.
Right, like the whole like power weapon thing is like, maybe we can go a little bit more into like the aesthetics of that particular sword.
We'll save it for a sequel episode for if people want the melee parts of this. In the same way I expect we'll do it again for the Imperium. Orcs are too generalist with their melee to do a melee episode. It's like 3 things. They don't differentiate.
Yeah, the thing that looks like it can hit, that's going to be my choppa now.
Yep. But if you want to see us do the melee version of these, then that will probably be in the future. If you have suggestions for future one of these to do, Necrons was kind of my next one. I wanted to see if it would be worth doing. I don't know how many types of guns we have in Necrons. Like, just thinking about it, we're a lot more generalist. Like, how long can we talk about Gauss?
That's true. Maybe we'll mix the ranged and melee together.
We'll see. Before we go, though, quick bit of news. Once again, we are doing a book club episode in like, let's call it a month and a half, maybe a little later than that, but I'd rather you read it now than later. The book will be Elemental Council. It is a Ta'al book. As we've been told to read it a bunch and everyone keeps telling us how amazing it is, so we will be reading it and doing a full review, synopsis, chat about it.
Yeah, so make sure if you're worried about spoilers to read it before 6-7 weeks or whatever. Should be plenty of time. I hope, because I have to read it as well still.
And last shout out, patron poll for patrons in the audience.
You've got a couple days. It's like the 23rd.
You've got till like Friday. Go. Be fast. If you're debating, now would be a great week to join Patreon.
Yeah, or buy some of our merch, poorhammer.com.
Partly because I'm pretty sure this episode is not going to be allowed to make much money.
Nah, it'll be fine.
It depends on how much Borrelio cut from the middle there. How much did you guys hear about horses this episode? We'll find out. If you have suggestions, throw them our way. Please check that you're subscribed. Other than that, just YouTube pleasantries are helpful, as you know.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty good wrap on the Aeldari weaponry.
I gotta say, like, I unironically, I said it earlier, like, half joking, but, like, I truly think my respect of Eldar doubled learning the lore of all their weaponry. I legitimately love so much of it. I mean, I already knew the Harlequin ones just because the Neuro Disruptor's pretty obvious.
But there's also all of their, like, it's this weapon, but, like, specific to a Exarch or whatever. And those are pretty cool as well, but we didn't want to spend 3 hours talking about literally every weapon.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the named version of a gun where it's the same gun, but this one's fancier. An edgelord 14-year-old put a scythe on the edge of this missile launcher.
Which definitely puts it up a tier.
It does, but that's not... We're not talking about Mugen Ra's weapon. So yeah, that is it for this episode. Thank you all so much. We are out of here.
Sounds good.